Okay, I'm going to show you now how to make the garlic and coriander naan from the Flavors of India cookbook, one of my favorite books. And I am going to use guided cooking on my TM6 to show you this today. Easier for me because I don't know the recipe so well. I've only made this one a few times. So it's asking me to add a bunch of fresh coriander. And I love chopping herbs in the Thermomix because of that high-grade stainless steel bowl. Nothing oxidizes in there, so the herbs stay nice and green. Which means they're retaining their vitamins and just being all nice and lovely. So it's telling me to transfer into a bowl and set aside. So I will put that back in the same bowl I had my coriander in, just to make it nice and easy. And you don't have to worry about getting it all out. It doesn't matter if there's a little bit of coriander left in the bowl for the next step. But you can see it's nicely chopped, ready to go on top later, because right now we're making the topping for the naan. So it's asking me to add a tablespoon of ghee. Now you can use butter if you don't have ghee, but you can also make ghee in your Thermomix. Basically, you start with butter, and it's the process of clarifying that butter to make your ghee. So that's something you can do in the Thermomix, and that recipe is in the Flavors of India recipe book as well. Okay, it's telling me to put on my lid. Basically now it's going to melt that ghee. We've set it for 1 minute, aroma temperature, speed 1. But because it's on guided cooking, I didn't need to set that. It automatically does that. Okay, I don't know if you can hear that sizzle, but you can see now that's all nicely melted, and it's asking me to add 3 cloves of garlic. If you love garlic, you can do more. Up to you. Tells you when to put the lid on, so handy. And now it's asking me to chop just for 3 seconds on speed 6. Because the bowl was already hot, it did take a few seconds for it to reach the speed we wanted. And that's just what happens when the bowl is hot. Now it's asking me to scrape down the sides, so I'll do that with my spatula. And it's asking me to add nigella seeds, and I don't have those, and I'm okay with that because in guided cooking, the recipe tells you what it wants you to do, but you don't have to follow it. It's okay to skip that. So basically I'm done here now, and I'm going to transfer this into a separate bowl and set it aside. Okay, so there is I've just set that aside into a bowl with our chopped garlic. A little bit of coriander was still in the bowl, and that's okay. I love this when it says do not clean the bowl. So the goodness of what's in there is just going to go into our dough mix, which is nice. Okay, it's asking me for some milk. So you can see the scales there go in 1 gram increments, which just make it really handy. Hey, that was perfect. Really accurate when you're adding in your ingredients. You know that you can't go wrong with the scales. I'm putting in some dry instant yeast that you get from the baking section in your supermarket. I store my yeast in the freezer just to make sure it stays alive and well. Now, it's asking me to activate that yeast. It is set to 2 minutes, 37 degrees, speed 1. Now, one of the things I love about the Thermomix is that temperature control where you can choose between a whole different range of temperatures, and it's very accurate. So 37 degrees is a great temperature for fermenting and also activating your yeast and doing breads. You can also go up to 40 or 45 for melting chocolate, up to 80 for your working with milks, and beyond that for cooking your dinners. And we also have high heat temperature up to 160, which is where you can do all your caramelizing and sugar works. So I'll show you what's happened once this yeast is activated. Okay, it's ringing telling me it's done, so we'll move on to the next step. I'll just show you, well, I don't know how easily I can show you without tipping it out, but you can see that the milk and yeast has just kind of frothed up a bit, so it's ready to add the rest of our ingredients. It wants me to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So I'll just put that in now. And you could weigh this if you wanted to. You could put the scales on and it would be about 40 grams, depending on how accurate you want it to be. Okay, I've got here a teaspoon of sugar. People leave the sugar out, which is fine to do, but it does help with the dough rising nicely. 2 teaspoons of sea salt, and I just use Himalayan rock salt that I mill myself in the Thermomix. Takes about 10 seconds to mill that into a nice cooking salt ready to use. And our baker's flour, so just going in. Hopefully I've got the right amount there. Close enough. Okay, yes, and a teaspoon of garlic paste, which you can make in your Thermomix as well. There's a great tip for peeling your garlic in the Thermomix. If you put in whatever cloves you want and do it on reverse, speed 5 for about 5 to 10 seconds, all the skin will go to the side of the bowl and you can grab that out really easily. But yeah, you can make your garlic paste in the Thermomix, and there's a recipe for that on this same recipe book, the Flavors of India book. So I'm just putting in yogurt, which I'm just going to say again, you can make as well in your Thermomix. It is very cost effective to be making your own yogurt. It's basically just milk, and then as well as the milk is some yogurt to start with as your starter, and then each time you make it you just use a bit of your yogurt from last time as your starter. So it's very cost effective to be making your own yogurt in the Thermomix, and the temperature control in here helps you do that really nicely. We actually have a special ferment mode to do that. It's just asking me to mix that for 20 seconds on speed 3. That's done. And it's telling me to keep the cup in and just keep going, because now we're going on dough mode. Dough mode is really a good strong push. 2 minutes of kneading in your Thermomix is about 20 minutes of good old-fashioned hand punching. This one's going for 3 minutes. It's a different recipe where we're using milk and yogurt in this one. Normal doughs are just using water in the mix. Yeah, it's kind of cool to watch, and I don't know if you'll be able to see, but you can see the, if I don't cover the light. So it's kind of cool. I'll just pause now and show you what it's done. Okay, so now the dough is ready, and I want to show you how I get it out of the Thermomix bowl and put it on my mat. This is the Thermomat that you can get from the mix shop. It's silicone, so it's really easy to work with. And wrap your dough in so it can rise really nicely as well. So with your dough, this one's a really sticky one. So I can tell it's already going to be a bit more, I'm going to need my spatula to get this one out. But see where the blades are at the bottom? If I twist that a few times, the dough should just fall out. And when I'm making pizza or bread dough or focaccia, actually focaccia is sticky as well, but like a normal pizza or bread or scroll recipe, this does just fall out and it's not sticky. But with a sticky one, you've still got, like normally the bowl looks pretty clean. So I'm going to need to use my spatula and maybe even my hands for this one, because this dough is a lot stretchier and stickier than your average dough. And that's okay. The different textures of the different doughs just give you different results, which is kind of cool. And there's lots of different bread doughs you can do in your Thermomix, which are pretty cool. Okay, that's probably going to be good enough. Oh, I'll get a bit more. I don't like to waste. Okay, so it's telling me to work it into a ball and set aside to rise until it's doubled in size. So I am just going to have this here in my Thermomat. You can see it's a really nice, sticky, stretchy. It's not too sticky, like my hands aren't coming out messy, but yeah, it's quite good. I like that actually. So I'm going to wrap this up and leave this somewhere to rise. Maybe an hour. I'll just see when it's doubled in size. So this is definitely a make ahead type thing. Start in the afternoon if you want it for dinner. But I will show you again when that's ready. Okay, carrying on with our naan. It's been rising away for about an hour, actually exactly an hour. So the big reveal, unwrapping the mat. You can see it's been rising nicely. And the good thing about this mat is it is non-stick, so it's very easy to work with. I'm just going to grab all that dough, and the recipe says to divide the dough into 6 portions. I'm going to make oval shapes, about 20 centimetre long. Don't stress too much about that unless you're wanting to make it look perfect. But yeah, it's risen very nicely. It's still a sticky dough, but it's looking great. Now on this Thermomix, we have our circle in the middle if you're wanting to work with different types of pastries. But for the naan, we don't need to do that. But if you want to work with your mat, don't use a knife on that because we want to keep the silicone all nice and intact. I'm just using my spatula to cut in half, and then I'm going to roughly do thirds. And if you want smaller naans, you can do that too. It doesn't matter what you want to do. So working that into a ball, and I'll just set that one aside. Now on the side here, I've got my fry pan heating up onto high heat. And if you can hear the noise in the background, my Thermomix is actually making a dal at the moment to serve with the naan. So that's what's happening with that. So while this was rising, I was able to get that cooking, as well as fold some laundry and do some other things around the house. Chat to the kids. Okay, so the recipe just says to use the heel of your hand to form it into an oval shape. So you can just kind of, so I'm just pushing it. You could use a rolling pin if you wanted to. I quite like when it's rustic though, so it's not perfect. It's just kind of a bit bumpy or whatever. And you also choose how thick or thin you want it. I'm going to do it fairly thin. It's looking good for me. Once that's cooked, I will brush on that garlic mixture that we made earlier and the naan that we chopped in the very beginning. Yeah, this is working quite nicely, actually. If it's too sticky, you can use some flour to help that. I really like a rustic shape. I'm trying not to make it too perfect. Yeah, it just goes in. You don't wheel the pan, you just put it in a dry fry pan. And here it's sizzling away. And I do want to show you what's happening there. So I've just got it in the pan. Nothing too exciting to watch, but I will show you when it's time to cook. Okay, that's been cooking about 1.5 minutes. So I am going to flip these over. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Ah, beautiful. You can see it's bubbled up and got those nice deep rich marks on either side. Okay, it's been another minute and I'm ready to take these off now. You can see it's been working on both sides now. And I'll just put on some more. Be a little bit efficient with your time. This looks fiddly, but I promise I am not a good chef, it is just as easy as I'm showing you. You don't need to really know what you're doing, just give it a go. Hopefully I'm showing you how easy it is. I'm just getting this garlic mixture now and brushing it on. Get that goodness in there. This is optional, by the way. If you want plain naan, just do this with ghee or butter or oil to give it that shine at the end. And now some coriander going on. And the last step will be, that's looking delicious, the last step will be putting on some salt, obviously optional as well. And we have our naan bread, and my dal is almost ready, so I'll be able to serve it with that in 2 minutes. While I keep cooking the rest, and we'll all be ready at the same time, and we've got a perfect dinner. So there's your naan.